Start the meeting, Chairman. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's meeting of the Cabinet. During the live broadcast, members and officers are asked, please, to ensure that mobile phones are placed in silent mode and that microphones are switched off when not in use. Would member services please report any apologies for absence?
Thank you. We've had apologies from Councillor Mrs Laws.
Thank you very much indeed. Agenda item 2, we're being asked to approve the public minutes, which are on pages 3 to 8 of the agenda pack, as being a correct record of the meeting which took place on the 26th of February 2024. May I ask any member who doesn't agree with the minutes to indicate that now? Good. I see no objections to the proposal to approve the minutes as a correct record of the meeting, so they are now agreed and I will sign. Thank you. Agenda item 3, there are no urgent items for consideration today. Agenda item 4 is to receive any declarations of interest under the local code of conduct or any interest under the code of conduct on planning matters in relation to any items to be discussed at this meeting. If you have anything to declare, please can you inform the meeting now? Well, no hands are raised, thank you. If anything occurs during the meeting which causes you to believe that you may have an interest which should be declared, please do so at the earliest possible opportunity. Agenda item 5 is the playing pitch strategy rugby update, which is to be found on pages 9 to 24 of your agenda pack. And this relates specifically for the sport of rugby in March. I'll now ask Councillor Miss Candlin to propose the report.
Thank you, Chairman. Fenland has a PPS, which is a playing pitch strategy development using Sport England grant funding in May 2016. This strategy covered many sports, including rugby, and in some of the 222-page long report, ideally the whole document would be revised. However, a third-party financial support is not available for a piece of work done which will be cost in the region of £30,000. March Bears Rugby Club has seen incredible growth in the past 5 years, growing from a small club with an adult men's team into a community hub and club. There's several senior teams, women's rugby, youth rugby, walking rugby, all taking place. With significant changes in the demand for rugby in March, it has been considered reasonable to carry out a small piece of work to revise the rugby section of the PPS in March. This will allow the local community rugby clubs to use the revised rugby PPS as evidence of the document when applying for grant funding to support the organisations such as Sport England or Rugby England Football. You may see from the PPS document that the demand for the town has outstripped the pitch provision considerably, and I hope that this document will support the club in its efforts to find more space to play their game. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Miss Candlin. May I have a seconder, please? Councillor Mrs French, thank you very much indeed. I'll now open the item for discussion. Would any member care to say anything? Councillor Mrs French.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm not into rugby or football. I can't stand it, but I do support their causes. So the document was 2016. Obviously now it's expired, and you want to. What concerns me is Steve Count and I in 2021 got the rugby club 236,000 to upgrade their facilities. Unfortunately, it did nothing about it, and it had to be handed back. And that's part of the £1 million that sits at County Council. Is this something that will assist them again to apply for future grants?
Thank you. Councillor Miss Candlin.
Thank you for that question, Councillor French. The short answer is I don't know whether it will affect them in the future. The fact that they had to hand the money back is strictly for them. I wasn't in place to deal with it at the time, but it's something that needs to be looked at going forward, but it needs to be looked at by them and us on the sideline. I know Phil Hughes is keeping abreast of the situation in there looking for land and for finances, but he is not doing it on behalf of Fenland. They're doing it themselves.
Thank you, Councillor Ms. Candlin. Councillor Mrs. Rachel.
Thanks for that. I do know that the land that they rent is privately owned, and they have it at a peppercorn rent. And I do know it has grown so much, they do need pitches. They were going to try and share some of the football pitches at Estover, but they couldn't come to an agreement, so they separated on that. But there's a piece of land which Canning Kirk on the top of Gull Road. It could well be they could go and speak to them. I know Steve Count was talking to them. It's a possibility if they could do a deal and get some money from Sports England.
I think, if I may, Councillor Miscantlon, the important thing for this particular agenda item is that it is only by us having this supplemental document agreed that it's going to be potentially possible for them to move forwards to find funding in various places. And I don't think that all the detail about what they're doing and where is necessarily relevant to this, unless, Councillor Miscantlon, you have something extra to say.
No, they've been made fully aware of the situation concerning land that is available to them, and it's up to them to find the suitable land. But we will give assistance in some of the locations should it be necessary.
That's very helpful, thank you. Anything else, Councillor French? Anyone else care to say anything? No? Well, there aren't any further speakers. The recommendation is at page 9 in the agenda pack, and it is for Cabinet to adopt the recently developed rugby playing pitch strategy, and that this is published alongside the Council's current 2016 playing pitch strategy as a supplemental document. Those in favour, please show. That is agreed unanimously. Thank you very much indeed, members. Agenda item 6 is the district-wide Armed Forces Military Covenant, which is to be found on pages 25 to 32 of the agenda pack. And this asks Cabinet to consider a proposal to sign an updated district-wide Armed Forces Military Covenant as a commitment to current and legacy Armed Forces personnel living in the Fenland district. I'll now ask Councillor Walworth to propose this report.
Thank you, Chairman. So the Armed Forces Covenant, known as the AFC, is a commitment to ensure those who serve, have served, and their families are treated fairly. It's a mutually understanding of respect, support between the local authority and the Armed Forces community. The Council signed a community covenant 13 years ago, which involved the County Council, District Councils, Police, Fire and NHS, and the existing covenant is seen as too vague and does not accurately represent and align with our remit as a local authority. Therefore, the main objectives in signing a new covenant as part of our Appendix A is to reaffirm our commitment. There are no additional resources needed to sign the AFC, and I hope Cabinet agrees with me that it is very important to demonstrate clearly that we can offer support to Armed Forces community, and the AFC does that. The recommendation is for Cabinet to allow me to sign the AFC as set out in Appendix A on behalf of the Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Warwick. May I have a seconder, please? Councillor Miscantlon, thank you. The item is now open for discussion. Would anyone care to say anything on this item? No, you've done a very good job, clearly, Susan, in expressing that. Since there are no speakers, the recommendation is set out on page 25 of the agenda pack and requests the Cabinet approve the signing of the Armed Forces Covenant as set out in Appendix A by Councillor Walworth, the portfolio holder with responsibility. Is that agreed? Those in favour, please show. All in favour, that's unanimous. Thank you all very much indeed. Agenda item 7 is the Wisbech High Street update, which can be found on pages 33 to 34 of the agenda pack and relates to an update on the works continuing at High Street, Wisbech. May I ask Councillor Seaton to propose this report, please?
Thank you, Chairman. An architect has reviewed the original building design for 1112 High Street following a recent discussion regarding value engineering. The revised design reduces the footprint of the new building, which should also reduce building costs. Additionally, the number of flats has been increased from 12 to 16, and this has been achieved by only offering one-bedroom flats, and these are in high demand in Wisbech. A quantity surveyor will now review the revised design to develop a cost. This assessment will include input from the quantity surveyor currently working for FDC on the 24 High Street scheme, opposite 1112. Once at this point, we will be able to continue discussions with potential funding partners at the Combined Authority and the National Lottery Heritage Fund, as well as having discussions in Cabinet regarding any funding commitment necessary from FDC. I expect to receive the revised or the cost for the revised design within the next 2 to 3 weeks. And the lottery fund had been updated on the new design. On 24 High Street, work continues on the 24 High Street build, and although the weather again continues to be inclement, this is now having relatively limited impact on the works, as the foundations are in place and the building is out of the ground. And the recommendation is to note the progress of the High Street. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Seaton. May I have a seconder, please? Councillor Miss Hoy, thank you very much indeed. The item is now open for discussion. Would anyone care to say anything, ask any questions? Councillor Tierney.
Thank you, Chairman. I think just for the purposes of, I know some people do sometimes watch these cabinet meetings, and some people might be alarmed at the idea of a building with 16 flats over the top in the middle of town. I think it's important that wherever we end up, we make sure that we put a decent management system in place to make sure that it remains a nice place to live that doesn't cause problems, rather than becoming a difficult place that does cause problems. I know that we're not anywhere near that now, but because I know people are watching and that might be a concern for some, I thought I would raise that it's certainly something that we'll pay attention to.
It's a very helpful comment. Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Tierney. Councillor Miss Hoy.
Yeah, just in response to that, obviously we can have local lettings policies and things in place, so we do have control over who goes into premises, particularly when we own them. So that would be something that we'd factor in.
Thank you very much indeed for that comment. Any other comments from any members? If not, I will come back to Councillor Seaton if you'd care to say anything further, or if
No, I think it's all been said, and I do take on board what Councillor Tierney and Councillor Hoy have said, and of course that is high on our list of priorities to make sure that we are in control of what is happening there.
Excellent, thank you. As there are no further speakers, I'll go to the recommendation, which is on page 33 of the agenda pack, and requests that Cabinet notes the progress in relation to the building of 24 High Street in Wisbech, and notes the actions ongoing regarding the development of a viable option for 11 to 12 High Street, Wisbech. Is that noted by everyone? Yep, it is. Thank you very much indeed. Agenda item 8 is the draft 6-month Cabinet Forward Plan, which is on pages 35 to 36. Are there any questions or comments on that? No. Thank you. The forward plan is noted for information. Under agenda item 9, there aren't any urgent items. Agenda item 10 is to approve the progress for a compulsory purchase order utilising the Town and Country Planning Act powers for a long-term empty property in March. Now, this is, members will note that it's being proposed that Appendix B to this report is exempt from publication, and this has been comprised within the confidential agenda pack. Will therefore remain in public session for as much of the debate as is possible. However, if any member wishes to discuss the content of Appendix B, then following presentation of the report, please confirm your intention, and I'll take a vote on whether to enter exempt session. Councillor Hoy, may I ask you please to propose this report without any reference to the contents of Appendix B.
Thank you. So I will not reference the location if that's preferable. Okay. So the council has been unable to resolve bringing a long-term empty property back into use in a location. And this has included taking a number of enforcement actions, which is obviously causing us to incur costs. This particular property has been subject to community complaints, lots of antisocial behaviour and environmental concerns, and obviously without giving away too much, it is in a popular sort of walkway and thoroughfare, which is causing some more issues for local people. Has been referred to our problem property working group, and the assessment outlet group concluded that all other powers that we have available at the property and get it back into use wouldn't help resolve the situation. And that's predominantly because of a family not requesting probate from the state. So the recommendation from the working group was that this property should be compulsory purchased, and that would hopefully enable action to be taken to get problems identified. Legal assessment has confirmed that there is a good case for a CPO to be sought, and it's proposed that utilising a power available in the Town and Country Planning Act is the best route for this. Doing nothing is not seen as acceptable in light of community and environmental impact, and that has been highlighted in the report. And if the CPO is secured, then the intentions will be to get the property back into use, as well as try to recover any costs incurred by the council. This will be through the implementation of an agreed option, which will include immediate disposal, refurbishment or redevelopment by the council, and the option implemented will be done in accordance with the asset management approach, commercial investment strategy and procurement policy. The funding to implement a CPO will be provided from the facility agreed to take forward our commercial and investment strategy, and the recommendations are set out in sections 3.1 to 3.3, and if approved by Cabinet will authorise officers to implement the CPO process through the courts.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Ms Hoy. And I note from the recommendations that it actually states what the property is in the recommendations in the public agenda, and that is Willow View in the Chase in March. May I have a seconder first of all, please? Councillor Mrs French, thank you very much indeed. And may I open this up for discussion? Councillor Mrs French.
Thank you, Chairman. I welcome this. I've been working with officers and residents for many years on this, and it was sad to see such a property. It was being done up in 2014-15. They put central heating in, new double glazed windows. Unfortunately, whatever happened, it was empty and it was totally vandalised, and I do mean totally vandalised. And it is a shame. FDC had repeatedly boarded it up. There was antisocial behaviour, there was threatening neighbours, etc. with the antisocial behaviour. Thankfully, that was sorted. So I do welcome this. We have not just the neighbours in the Chase, but neighbours in another street, and I believe it's 5 different properties because of the overgrown bushes, etc. And they've all suffered, and also suffered with vermin, which isn't pleasant. So I would say, yes, I totally welcome this.
Thank you very much. Any other comment? Councillor Miscanlon.
Thank you, Chairman. What are the cost implications for FDC in this?
Sorry, I should let Councillor Miss Hoy answer that.
Well, I think we're getting very close to the confidential part, so I don't know how much people want to say.
May I suggest that I can say that the cost implications, we are covered as much as we can be under the legislation.
Thank you.
If there are no other, I'll come back to you, Sam, at the end. If there aren't any other comments, I'll make 1 or 2 comments about this. I'm not in favour of CPOs generally, especially on residential properties. I don't think that it's a particularly correct thing for us to do to interfere in private property. But sometimes it's the last resort. And in this particular case, it is the last resort. If we don't exercise our powers here to seek a compulsory purchase order, then this problem is not going to be solved, and it will continue year after year after year. When I became leader, I inherited this problem. It was one of the first things that Councillor Mrs French raised with me about trying to get something done. I'm sorry it has taken this long. It does go to show that we don't go immediately for compulsory purchase orders, but, as I say, it is a tool of last resort, which in these circumstances is entirely appropriate. So despite my dislike of CPOs for private property, in this particular case, we are exercising our role as a council, in my opinion, properly. Councillor Miss Hoy.
Yeah, I was just going to say similarly to what you've said, really, because obviously when I started the housing portfolio in 2019, this was one of the first visits I made with Councillor French, who was very keen to see this resolved, and that was over 4 years ago now. So obviously I know things don't 4 or 5 years ago, and things do take time. As we know, things, Rome wasn't built in a day, but hopefully now this is the start of seeing some positive progress there.
Thank you, Councillor Ms Hoy. Any other comments from anyone? No, good. Well, there's no need for us to go into exempt session then. There are no further speakers. The recommendations are set out in detail at paragraphs 3.1 to 3.3 of the report on page 38 of the agenda pack. Those in favour, please show. That is agreed unanimously. Thank you very much indeed, members. This marks the end of the meeting. I declare the meeting closed, and the next meeting of the Cabinet is scheduled to take place at 4 p.m. on the 22nd of April 2024. Thank you very much indeed, members. Thank you, officers.